And there's no stigma. What is the stigma around women in gaming? That you guys keep using false statistics, which makes more scrutiny? That Twitch, a website that was for gaming, allowed thoughts to run rampant and make sexual content on a website that minors are allowed on? So now all the women who play games on this website get weirdos in their chat asking when they're gonna have an OnlyFans too? What do you mean? It's been a decade. I doubt that's the stigma they're talking about. Goobergate, my Goobergates. The stigma. Annie acknowledged it's more normal to see women play video games today than when she was younger. Yeah, and I got bullied for being a gamer when I was younger. I got bullied by my peers, not the people in the video games. The people in video games were welcoming because they were like, what the fuck? There's a woman here? Whereas normies were just like, look at this fucking lesbian nerd liking boy thing. They're creating the phantoms. I think that it's almost like the industry is catching up a little bit to how society's evolved into how they view gamers. I think the generation of gamers in the 80s when I grew up, a lot of them are adults now with kids and families, and they still continue to play games. A lot of my friends play games while they have teenagers in their house. That's perfectly normal now, right? So I think society has evolved, and I think the industry has evolved with it. What does she fucking mean? I was playing video games with my dad when I was a kid. I was like, I don't understand. Okay, if you do end up making an OnlyFans, will I have to be the one answering all of your DMs? Yes. If I make an OnlyFans, all of my paid conversations, $20 a minute, you'll actually be talking to Nim. The stigma around women in gaming is that women are lazy whores who cannot be trusted to ever do anything themselves and instead rely on nothing but sex appeal and lies to seduce or eliminate their more capable male rivals. In 2024, it is 100% statistically sensible to be suspicious and biased against the presence of a woman in your game. I wouldn't say that it's sensible to be suspicious of a woman playing a game with you, right? Because, like, I still play plenty of games, and I don't feel like I am typically scrutinized by any of the people that I play with. But, like, going to your women are lazy whores who cannot be trusted to do anything and instead rely on sex appeal, as an MMO gamer, I would be involved in guilds, right? And in our guilds, we would have, you know, the strive to get better gear. We would do guild runs together so we could upgrade our gear, and we'd share materials to get our pluses, and we'd farm accessories together, and then we'd go and beat raids. And then occasionally, a woman was added to the guild. And this woman, instead of wanting to go on the guild runs and wanting to integrate into the guild culture, would just want to sit in Ventrilo or Mumble or TeamSpeak and talk all flirty with the men in the guild, and these men would be tantalized by her feminine wiles. She's not like the other girls, as it were. No, she's not getting down and dirty having to do the actual content. She's just like, oh, you know, I'm not good enough to be able to beat this dungeon, and if you would carry me through the dungeon, or maybe you could just do the dungeon without me while I talk to you, and then you can give me the gear from it afterwards. I fucking hated the women that would do that. Not only because it was aggravating to have men in the group literally argue for wanting to give this lazy, worthless piece of shit loot from a dungeon that I ran in, but also because that woman would then create other issues with us girls who were trying to do the actual content. She would try to place herself on a pedestal above the rest of us and try to create strife and issues so that she would be the last woman standing in the guild. And it's like, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to have catty office woman drama. I just want to play the fucking video game. Why are you here? If you want tons of male attention, I'm sure you can get it elsewhere. Get the fuck out of my video game. She's not putting any effort into the content. She's not going to put any effort into fucking you. Yeah, but it's a very, very easy thing to do, and it was very common in MMOs. And the amount of dudes who would try to argue for taking loot in a dungeon run and just giving it to someone who wasn't even there, didn't participate in it, and who frequently would even skip out on training runs for raids. It's like, no, I don't want this worthless piece of shit being given anything for free. To note, of course, you're talking about people like empowered women who are currently streaming on Twitch. I have autism, so I'm an exception. Every good female gamer has autism. I dare you to prove me otherwise. Jesus Christ. I described your entire RO experience. Those guys are just as stupid for falling for and doing that stuff. If you're a manipulative woman who wants to be put on a pedestal and seen as some kind of goddess, and you don't really give a shit about nerds or nerd culture, you know that a lot of these people who dedicate 24 hours a day to playing an MMO probably aren't going out and getting laid. So you can very much take advantage of their loneliness to coerce them into giving you items and not feel bad about it because, oh, they did it because they wanted to. They liked my attention.
Usually only guy friends. Guess why?
You just don't get men that don't get that those women won't sleep with them anyways, no matter how much loot you give them. Back in the day, some of them actually did, though. some of them actually did. And it's like, I remember being in a Final Fantasy static, and this is when I was still maining healer before I switched to Bard. Goddamn, Bard used to be so much fucking fun. In our static, our Bard was a woman. There was me, there was another woman who I think played Black Mage, and then there was the Bard, who was a woman. And we couldn't beat... Oh god, I can't remember what it's called. It's like the big ball it's the first boss of Bahamut Coil. And you had to silence it at specific points. And if you didn't silence it, it would basically be a raid wipe. ADS, thank you. If you didn't silence the ADS, it would be a raid wipe. She, as the Bard, was the only person who could silence at this point in the game. So she would miss this silence every time we were practicing. And after, like, the 4th week or so, like, we had conversations with her. After the 4th week or so, and us being very far behind in beating Coil, we had a group confrontation with our raid leader, and we were like, we think it's about time that she either plays a different class or we kick her out entirely, because we can't make any raid progression, and having it gone on for this long is kind of unacceptable. But our raid leader had a giga boner for this Bard woman, so he argued like hell to not kick her out, and then told her that the rest of us wanted to kick her out, and her response was to get angry and say, you guys just want to kick me out of the raid group because you're sexist and you hate women! And me and the Black Mage are just here like, no, we want to kick you because you're fucking incompetent! We don't have any problem with what our job is! Meanwhile, yes, get out. And there was the woman who sold her virginity for an epic mount. I remember reading that on stream as well. I told you guys the story about the woman I knew in Ion who had a sex diary of her trying to fuck the Korean men who played the game. I guess MMOs were a wild fucking frontier back in the day, dude. How did the story end? Did she leave? Yeah, eventually we got her to leave. The Bard has too many points in charisma. Roll the nat d20 on your guild leader. Jesus. Your first 14 guild was ruined because the guild leader started dating a proto e-girl.